So, to kick off your point, because I think it's a very good one to like assess, the supervised, what I was getting into is like with gathering rates on the HRE, you gather twice as fast as you get the extra bonus of supervised. But the difference is that any finite resource is gathered 40% faster. You're out of your safe zone. Meanwhile, to your point with the Chinese, you're just fabricating, right? Like, it's very clear that these guys do taxes as well because they're cooking the books. They're finding 20% additional wood, 20% additional food, gold, stone, whatever they're supervising, which means that you can actually hold on that high ground safely for a lot longer than other civs.
Yep, it's a big advantage that the Chinese have on a map like this for sure. Yeah, it's something that will give him a little bit more time to come out, or to, before he has to come out of his base, rather. But as we've already mentioned, VortiX, of course, taking those sacred sites can force that push a little bit sooner.
Yes, and we'll see if he actually rushes towards them. We have Sindelia players usually going into the Horseman as an opener, just to try and maintain that midfield flow. Something to keep in mind, though, against the Chinese is that they can actually match that production bonus that the Delhi get. In fact, they can exceed it because not only can you use these officials rather to supervise eco buildings for 20% additional drop-off, you can use them on military buildings, so they act the same as 2.5 times that structure, right? So you could actually see PuppyPaw very quickly pivot, and we do still have to think about that infamous Juke new timing that could completely obliterate everything that VortiX wants to do in Feudal Age.
Yeah, that's something VortiX is going to have to be careful of. He has to find kind of the right moment to choose to fight or to age, because he really can't afford to fight Zhugnu in the long term unless he wins some good fights early, or he gets up to the Castle Age and gets some of those stronger veteran or armored units out.
We'll see if PuppyPaw is thinking about going for a TC boom, because regardless of how limited the resources are on this high ground, there is an itching temptation for any pro that comes onto Hill and Dale. No matter what civ you're playing, no matter how you usually play, at the end of the day, you do look at the map, you do see 3 choke points, and you do go, there's enough room on this hill for like 4 TCs. So you'll see how well he does at resisting that temptation. Of course, especially the Chinese, you get a lot of benefit because once you get Song Dynasty, any TC you have isn't 1 TC, it's 1.35 TC effective. So opening onto the gold to begin with. This is something we've been seeing a lot more ever since the nerf to Imperial Officials, right? Because it used to be they only cost 150 gold, 150 food rather. Now they're 100 food, 50 gold. And back then, I feel like most players were avoiding doing gold mines at all, right? They were actually getting the double feudal without even going a single villager on a gold vein.
Yeah, it's definitely something that they have to consider now. They can, of course, still stay Dark Age a little bit longer if they wanted to do something like a Tower Rush or whatever, and they could still avoid building that mining camp. But for now, they do have to build that mining camp, and that is what PuppyPaw is going to do, which is going to give him the resources, looks like almost perfectly, to construct that landmark. We'll see. Yeah, it is going to be a Ford Barbican on that middle sacred site, potentially.
Interesting placement as well. Would consolidate around some gold veins. So actually, this generation has a lot of gold in the center, and yeah, it's not close. It's basically on the sacred side. Like, he cannot get closer than this. It also guards a relic, another objective of the Chinese, because of course, if you do rush cut, oh no, VortiX won't let him. He can't get it!
The sheep!
Oh, the sheep and the scouts! Everything in the way. In fact, the sheep belonged to PuppyPaw, but it looks like he'll finally get it. That was beginning to get a little bit worrying, though. Doesn't get the optimal placement right on top of the sacred site, but will at least deny that sacred site away from VortiX. An ambitious play, and one that looks like it is actually going to pay off.
Yeah, well, one scout actually going down for VortiX as well. A little bit sloppy there. Oh, but he does manage to trade it.
Yes.
And there's a Spearman out now, but I don't think that's going to be there in time to deny this this Barbican. It could turn on the sheep, maybe.
Wow, what a great use of the Spearman in the end. He's like, well, I can't beat anything. I guess I'll just attack the wildlife that doesn't attack back. And it looks like in the end, the Spearman is just going to have to back away. Isn't able to defend the scout. Of course, the reason why VortiX didn't even try to harass the villagers is you are up against China, and China are able to build quicker than any other civ. So good luck stopping that Barbican.
Yeah, and any damage you put on that villager's just going to be running circles around that Barbican until it's finished, and you're just not going to be able to finish it off.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward, right? Because Dark Age Spearmen seem like they should be very scary, especially when you compare them to villagers who have tiny shivs. But then you look at the damage values and you realize actually they're equally threatening. They both do 6 damage, so le shrug. Looks like we are going to get into the Dome of Faith, which isn't too unexpected. I mean, I don't know the last time I saw someone build a Tower of Victory seriously in a competitive game. It is very poorly named. I don't know if it's because it's not with the times. It needs to have like a more 21st century name, like Tower of the Dub. But for some reason, you just don't win when you build that structure.
Yeah, and the Dome of Faith, conversely, is a really strong landmark. If you compare it to like other landmarks in Feudal Age, a lot of them give you value like roughly around 50 resources per minute, whereas the Dome of Faith is like closer to like 100 resources per minute if you're constantly training scholars from it. And then on top of that, you know, the benefit of getting efficient production with a cheaper scholar just gives you, you know, a lot cheaper military buildings, stuff like that. You can then use them to take Sanctity Sacred Sites, pick up relics when you hit the Castle Age and stuff like that. And yeah, overall, it's just a very flexible landmark, whereas the Tower of Victory is... It feels like it should have good scaling, because technically you could put all of your infantry through it for the entire game, but it just slows down what you can do too much without having those scholars.
Yeah, I think the trap of Tower of Victory is when you read it, it sounds broken. It's like, wow, permanent attack speed increase? Well, if we're both pop capped, then that's 20% more troops. That's amazing. Yeah, but there's the issue. Like, if your goal here is to take advantage of something that gives you an advantage 40 minutes in the game, what's the comparative advantage in the meantime, right? And that's where Dome of Faith is amazing, because it unlocks basically any sort of strategy the Delhi want to do right now, because the scholars are so integral to this civilization's functionality.
Looks like that one spearman gonna be running for his life. The charge attack from PuppyPaw's spearman, not quite gonna reach it. So that spearman will be able to return home and get healed up from the scholar. Maybe a scout could come and finish it off.
I mean, that would be a beautiful sense of irony. I'm not sure if he cares about it that much at this stage. He just wants to keep it out of his base. The cool thing by doing this chase as well is you're actually just scouting some of the map, just seeing if there's any flanks. In the meantime, looks like the outposts are going up on the sacred sites. But wait a second. That's not the Delhi player. Oh dear. It looks like VortiX is running out of critical options as the Delhi don't tend to thrive without sacred site control.
Yeah, that is a bit of an investment though, and VortiX could maybe just make enough units to just siege down that building unless he upgrades it to the stone tower, where it will have, you know, that extra 1000 HP along with that fire armor. Then it would kind of require a much larger investment. Looks like it is going to be the case. So in order to kill this, VortiX is either going to need a lot of units that are uncontested or even some rams.
Yeah, right now he wishes he was playing against his bro so he could just run to the other room and hold the delete key. Because it's unlikely he's going to be able to get through those outposts. And while that's happening, you know, PuppyPaw, you're Chinese. You're booming, right? He's got his second TC. He's got his Imperial Academy. He's now at 2.7 town centers effective. And it looks like VortiX is now trying to go for town centers himself. But he's going to be notably behind his opponent if he chooses to do this. Feels good playing China, right? Just a million and one villages.
Yeah.
Open up all the good old Donner shops, and that means that he's getting 20% more effectivity. I mean, you can already see on the numbers, like, he's healthy compared to VortiX. And those numbers are just going to get better, folks. I mean, he's going to escalate very fast. It's already a 5 eco lead, but I wouldn't be surprised if PuppyPaw goes for a third TC, putting him up at almost 4 town centers effective.
Yeah, it's definitely an option available to him. He doesn't have to worry as much about these sacred sites for the time being, as he does have the towers up on them. Ooh, the Barbican. If he could move a little bit further away, maybe it wouldn't even be in range, but he does have the extra scholars there to help heal him anyway.
Yeah, and that means he's going to just shuffle across and stand his ground on the Barbican. Oh, the head patters are so ridiculous. That's my name for them, because it just looks like they're just patting each other for a job well done. It's like, yeah, look, we healed through every piece of damage coming our way. Woohoo! The healing circle jerks are quite ridiculous, and the Barbican won't be able to stop this. PuppyPaw, he can at least deny the cap. There's only a few archers here. He won't be able to kill them off. It depends on how important he sees this, because the reality is, like, VortiX, if he now wants to hold this sacred site, has to sit here, right? He can't just now leave.
Yeah, that's right. And he does get the sacred site with those scholars. in kind of the least likely position you would expect with the Barbican in the middle there. He is going to back off of it for the time being, leave a few archers there to deny any spearmen from standing on it. And
Uh-oh. We've reached that point. And if you look at what VortiX has been building, everything he's built says, please pepper me with arrows, because the Zhuge beat everything here. The archers, the spearmen.
Yeah, they are very strong against archers.
And this is a situation where you would have expected horsemen. But he didn't want to build horsemen because PuppyPaw kind of forced the matter, right? He built these spearmen initially. It baited him in. And now, because there are no archers here, PuppyPaw is just going to delay the cap on this site. All the while now escalate the Zhuge Nu count, now up to 10, taking a fight in the center, peppering onto these archers. And because you have your head patters elsewhere, the scholars aren't here to heal up any damage done, just meaning you're losing the archers outright.
Yeah, little dance there, just denying that sacred site for almost a full minute before he's forced to garrison. Those scholars will be able to keep the spearmen alive as they torch that tower as well. But this might be enough time. There might be enough time now for PuppyPaw to come over with those Zhuge and potentially save that tower. He's definitely not going to be able to stop the sacred site from going up, but if he saves the tower, he'll be able to decap it after. But that looks like it's not going to quite be the plan, as he's going to take down this sacred site first.
No, he's just going to let him have it because he's very happy with the game. If you look, you can see like the eco lead is getting ridiculously big now, and VortiX, like, you know, you might have a sacred site or two, but that's not gonna be the differential on the village account. Like, PuppyPaw is clearly and blatantly ahead, and I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes castle in the next 2 to 3 minutes. But now, the Zhuge Nu are going to move across. That reduced torch damage means that VortiX has been standing here for a long time, doing basically nothing. And VortiX now is going to try to beat him to the punchline with the House of Learning. He's constructing up now, but it means he's going to lose the Sacred Site, as he has to just retreat away from the Zhuge Nu.
Yeah, and that sacred site will go over to PuppyPaw. Well, it won't be him, but he'll make sure that VortiX doesn't have it. And gonna chase down these scholars.
Yeah,
and losing these scholars, losing these scholars is a bit painful, especially since as Delhi, you love to pick up those relics as soon as possible when you hit the Castle Age, and if you can kill all these scholars, that's going to be just a little bit harder to do.
Especially when you know it's a key condition for Chinese players, right? Like, whenever you play the Chinese, you're always thinking about the fact that you can supervise your monastery, you can change that 45-second production time to 18 seconds, and race out and instantly gain those relics. So, although VortiX is going to tech up first, I wouldn't be surprised if PuppyPaw is less than a minute behind him, just because of how fat his eco is getting. And right now, you can see he's got plenty of deer left, plenty of people working on those deer, meaning he doesn't need to make a farmland transition before he techs up.
Yeah, and to your point as well, like, it's a lot easier for him to catch up, considering that he's also got the extra build speed on that landmark. But this is a large Zhuge mass now. Just second town center up for VortiX, but
but it's still not comparative. You know, PuppyPaw basically almost free TC affected due to Song Dynasty. And you know, right now, VortiX has done a good job of buying time, but this is where the strategy has to reveal itself. And if the strategy is just to go Lancers, I've got bad news, my friend. I mean, Spearmen are still being pushed by PuppyPaw, so it won't be easy for you to pick these Zhuge Nu apart.
Yeah, he's got 12 Spearmen on the field to defend these Zhuge Nu if need be. And looks like he's even starting to build... Sorry, there's a... Okay, I'm crazy, never mind. I thought there was something being built on the relic on the south side of the map, but VortiX appears to have picked it up, so it's actually a unit that's chasing a scholar on the south. Never mind.
Ah, there we go. That makes a bit more sense. So no relic for you, Mr. VortiX. Even with the extra 40 health, you're just going to be cut off. And you can see now PuppyPaw, he shows his intent. He's making his way up the astronomical clock tower. We'll probably quickly move into a monastery in the meantime, keeping VortiX boxed in his base with harassment on both the left and right flank.
Yeah, and doing a really good job of keeping an eyes on these relics at all times. One does go over to VortiX, but it's hard to deny all the relics. But if you can deny 4 of them, that would be a huge swing in PuppyPaw's favor.
And the beautiful thing is, if you're both playing for a hyper late game, relics, like, if you're going for a quick finish, relics matter less, right? If you expect both sides to be 200 pop capped, it's not that 100 gold differential per relic. It's 200 gold because you both had clear gains from going towards it. So it hurts more if this game drags later. And realistically, VortiX doesn't want this game to drag later. You're the Delhi. If this goes to Imperial Age, you're miles behind the Chinese. And that's why he's going to try to get the keep up. Fight underway. Juknu have been gap closed upon by the Lancers, and Lancers are being focus fired upon. In fact, they're quickly turning from cavalrymen into giant hedgehogs as they are being peppered with little pins here. The Juknu basically doing 1 damage. Under the backstab coming in. It's not going to be quick enough, though. VortiX will be able to construct the keep, but will lose a few villagers for his trouble here. We'll get the garrison out, saving 7 of them. Backstab does pay off for PuppyPaw. Eco lead is getting close to being double up at this stage, in fact, in favor of the Chinese player. VortiX, he needed this keep, but now he needs to actually push past the Barbican, because the longer he sits back and does nothing, the more PuppyPaw thrives. I wonder what the transition is going to be. I assume we're going to get Trebs coming out of VortiX next. But you can now see with the Lancer switch up from PuppyPaw, it might be difficult for him to defend that.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. He does have the first Siege Workshop coming up now, so we'll see. As soon as he has the wood available, we'll see what he chooses to do with that.
Maybe just some static defenses over the sacred sites would benefit him. We do have to start thinking about wood supply, and you can see actually like everything looks quite babyish on this map. VortiX does have a big up in that regard though, because on the south side he has 2 dense forests that are completely away from combat. PuppyPaw, probably aware of this by now, is going to want to pressure into that area at some point. You don't want to allow VortiX to extend his game.
Yeah, that definitely is going to be the spot that PuppyPaw wants to contest later in the game, but for now he's focused on this north side of the map here with that Sacred Site and Relic still available on the north. He wants to try and deny that as long as possible, maybe even pick up that Relic himself. And for the moment, his army is looking like it can do just that. If you look at the army size, it's quite a bit bigger for PuppyPaw at this point. And if you just look at the population, like things are starting to look really good for him. And as you mentioned, like this is a game that VortiX doesn't want to go later. Delhi, when you get to Imperial with Delhi, it takes a very long time to get any value out of it. And on the flip side with China, when you get to Imperial, you can even supervise out those upgrades even faster. Like just the difference in how much these civs want to go late game is massive. And for VortiX at the moment, it's really looking like he doesn't have a way to end the game early.
Poor little Monk, just trying to get it back. And that's the worry. Like, if you go late, like those things you mentioned, also Nesta B's another thing to consider, right? The Mangonels got nerfed, but Nesta B's didn't. So if VortiX players to go for a heavy dense type formation, that could be punished. He does have some upsides. Things like Force March come to mind, which will allow you to gap close on that siege. But then compare it on the other side. Like, if PuppyPaw goes towards Yuan Dynasty, well, Palscar basically become 2-legged cavalry. They move at 1.58 tiles per second, which means that they can basically chase down whatever the hell they want. And it means that VortiX might struggle to maintain any semblance of dynamic control in these fights.
Yep, looks like the trebuchets are out for VortiX now, or at least one trebuchet is going to be working away on that Barbican, trying to secure that Sacred Site and that Relic. But PuppyPaw positioning to the north side might try to start sieging through these walls just outside of range of the keep.
Oh, he's going. Yep. He sees a nice little gap that he can weave his way through. And this is going to be VortiX's own fault for not building a stone wall here. Another keep going up to defend him, better in his base. There is a side value to this as well, because of course if you do hold on, you can use that to tech up quickly as it is daisy chained into your economy. Looks like the walls are down. He's going to force a fight. VortiX, heavily outnumbered. 25 military pop capped at the 55 of PuppyPaw. PuppyPaw now going to march through. All the villagers pull forward to make sure this keep goes up in time, and PuppyPaw might realize it's happening a little bit too late here. Nestabee's out of range, will not be able to punish. Villagers are going to be fine, and it looks like PuppyPaw is going to have to reset. And while that was happening, the Relic got yoinked. You sneaky goose. VortiX actually snatched it right from underneath the Barbican.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he needs to try and make up for something of the economic difference here. 3 relics to 1 at the moment. Ooh, he's just picked up both the relics? That can't be intentional.
I mean, right now, like, I'm questioning what is intentional and what is not around these relics, because it feels like... There's like this guy's come in, right? He's just like 50 centered. He's been shot up. He still survives. He's like, look what I got. Like, big whoop. We've got ours. We didn't even get injured for it. It's like, guys, can you just shut up and heal me? Can we stop flaunting? His VortiX is now only getting 100 gold per minute instead of the 300 that he justly should have. And this is the type of thing you wouldn't notice as well, actually. This is the type of thing you do and forget happened, because why are you going to be looking back there any time now?
Oh, well, he lost maybe
there we go.
almost a minute of gather time on those relics, but thankfully he does notice.
Was that what was happening there? I was like giving my speech, and then Mitoe's there going, 56, 57, 50.
You caught me.
You're a man of maths. I love it.
200 gold. No.
Stop thumping the table. Why don't you like gold? And that's definitely going to help him a lot. He needs that as well, because let's say we get hyper late and all the gold is gone from the map. You are up against the Chinese. They're able to tax their buildings, and the Delhi don't really have that same layer to the Rico. So definitely worthwhile to have these relics banked for him. We've reached that stage in the game. You know the stage I'm talking about, Mitoe, right? It's the stage where you can get up from your seat, go make a cup of coffee, come back, and nothing would have changed because they're both building up trebuchets.
Yeah, although that number for PuppyPaw is starting to grow now. It's up to 3 trebuchets, so that keep is going to be slowly going down. He's got 1 more trebuchet in queue. That will probably be the nail in the coffin for this keep. But the important detail here, I think, is PuppyPaw is going up to Imperial.
Oh, baby. And he's not doing it from a position of weakness. Like, he's already bolstered himself, right? He's going to have some reserves by the time he arrives. On top of that, he's 200 pop capped. So it's not going to be easy for VortiX to breach. VortiX, who, by the way, is nowhere near pop cap. Look at that count, 134 to 200. Out-ecoed, out-militaried, and these elephants, oh, they might be a chewy meat, but there is enough teeth in this PuppyPaw's mouth to munch down upon him. As we're moving with the Lance and the Spearman as well, looking at the trebuchets, forcing him back, keep taking heavy damage in the meantime as the villagers are forced to try and repair it, and the rush through onto the trebuchets, target him down. In the meantime, Zhuge and Nu just turning around on the elephants, peppering them with arrows as they quickly fall. Treb still close to being forced down, but at the moment, it looks like this spring is going to wheel out. And that's something that PuppyPaw can exploit. He'll will the Trebs away. He'll send out one Lancer. He'll try to torch them down. In the meantime, Zhuge and Nu are going to have to retreat, as there's just too many elephants here, and it looks like VortiX has, at least for the moment, stabilized.
Yeah, but behind this, PuppyPaw is Imperial now, and he does have some of those upgrades coming in pretty soon, and potentially going to start getting those bombards out where he can start pushing a little bit more quickly than the trebuchets, and it's going to be very tough for VortiX now. He's down in population, down in economy, down in tech, and if he wants to equalize, it's going to take him at least another 10 minutes at a minimum.
You say 10 minutes at the minute. I mean, that involves going like Imperial when you're at pop cap.
Yeah.
It feels like you need 25 minutes, right? Like, because you need to get there and then you need to stabilize. You've got this weird fragile timing now between all the resources on the map being gone and you reaching Imperial. Like, it feels very awkward. I mean, the TLDR on this is you are Delhi. Okay, wait. We've spotted an upside, though. This is a big one. I don't know how we didn't notice it until now. We are 23 minutes into the game, and PuppyPaw, apparently, this vicious barbarian, refuses to give his hard-working villagers wheelbarrows.
I struggle with that too with China. You're like, in the early game, you're like, but it gives me more taxes to not get wheelbarrow. And then later on, you've got 134 villagers, and you're like, oh god, I haven't got wheelbarrow yet.
Oh my god, not that argument. I'm pretty sure Age of Noob already covered that one. It's just not worth it.
Wheelbarrow is a very good upgrade, yeah.
Oh dear, oh dear. Shout out to Age. Need more content from him. We know he's on the AET grind at the moment, but hopefully we give him some reason to come back to this soon. Like, dissecting this game right now and giving us the specific numbers, I want them. PuppyPaw, how much have you missed out economically? But it won't slow him down anyway, either way, as the keep is going to be constructed. Elephants are going to be forced to fight. The Zhuge Nu have not been upgraded yet. They are not into elite status, so they haven't got that juiced up damage further. But uh-oh, it's the natural predator of the elephants. The bombards have arrived. More villagers to the front as well. PuppyPaw looking to ensure that keep goes up. And VortiX is going to be forced back into his base on the high ground where he can remain for a while, but not ideal when you're reaching this stage of the game where your initial resources are starting to dry up. So, now we need to think, what is next for VortiX? Like, how do you recover this? Because we've already highlighted that the Imperialing right now is... it's kind of the equivalent of taking yourself, yelling, "This is Spa," and throwing yourself into a deep well, right? It's not good. So, are we looking at a military pop cap, if feasible, into a mid-ground push and then Imperial? Is that even feasible?
It seems like it might not be, but these elephants are putting in some work right now, at least taking out some of these units here. If that one doesn't die to the bombard, but
I mean,
that keep is going to go down. I don't see how VortiX can deal with the siege at this point.
No.
And the economy behind this PuppyPaw can just keep taking... He can just keep taking bad trades if he wants, and it'll be favorable for him with this economy.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, the head patterns are strong. Herbal medicine ensures that, but there's a diminishing point. And as this bombard count increases, as the layering of siege in this increases, like, you're not even going to reach your target before you die. And you see already the Jignu still getting reasonable trades due to the assistance of the bombard. Infrastructure falling as well. VortiX running out of places to run and hide. And oh no, PuppyPaw. He's shy on the stone right now. I know what he wanted to do, but buddy, it costs 800 stone, not 702. He's trying to fluff the tax forms there.
Villager pull.
VortiX. Yeah, but the Jignu. There's too many Jignu here. He's going to lose a lot of troops if he's not careful. Find a way. Actually, it seems like there's crossbows now in the mixer there, and it looks like he's going for the construct. The rush around, he's trying to take out the siege, but the keep's going to go up, and heavy damage to be done here. VortiX, this is going to be a heavy economical sacrifice, and unlike the last game, PuppyPaw is going to be fully aware of how far ahead he is. As you can see, the shrinking economy of the Delhi player. He turns around, gets rid of the bombard, but peppered down so many dead villagers, and for what?
Yeah, he slows down the push a little bit, getting the bombard and the 2 trebuchets. But there's still 2 trebuchets left, and what he really needed was to kill everything and lose less villagers than he did. And maybe there would have been a chance for him to hold on for a little while longer, but yeah, that trade at the end of it was just better for PuppyPaw.
So he needed to kill more and lose less.
Yep.
So you're basically that person. Let's be honest. As a kid, when you went to see Santa, you weren't that person that asked for one present. You like pulled out a list, right? Like it rolled down his leg, and you're like, and I want this. And it's just you're asking too much, Mitoe. There's only so much the poor Spaniard can do here.
Yeah, he does still have a lot of elephants, but what can those elephants really do? You have to remember, Chinese keeps as well have the hand cannon emplacements instead of the arrow slits, right? So they do 50 damage instead of I believe it's 12, and that makes them a lot more effective against these tower elephants as well. Just kind of like a natural counter that China gets to them, and like VortiX just isn't going to be able to push in here, partially because of that.
It's problematic. I mean, you're trying to rebuild the trebs, which is heavy on your wood. The wood burden is getting undeniable. I mean, the only upside you've got might be shrinking, because notice what PuppyPaw is doing on the south side. All your wood lines are belong to me now, as he's also chopping down there. So there's limited resources in reserve. VortiX, as you already said, trying to dive under these hand cannon slits is going to backfire, especially with the big boy cannons turn and burn onto you, which is what they're going to do now as another one of the elephants goes down. This is just too much damage to try and heal off. I mean, credit to VortiX for holding on, but I would love to... This is the type of situation where I kind of wish this was like team games and we had like the listen-in tech that some other esports have. So we can let's go for a listen-in to see exactly how VortiX is going to get out of this. Because if we listen in right now, all we'd hear is elephants yelling. I don't know how an elephant yells, but I'm not even going to try to make an elephant noise. Can you do an elephant noise for me?
I don't think I can do that.
No, I was gonna do it and I was like, I have no clue how. We'll just let them do it. As the zoom in really just accomplishes everything we're talking about here. VortiX trying to push PuppyPaw away. But the bombard, it's building, baby. Up to 5 boom cannons. And all of a sudden your Ellie boom is gonna be doom. As one by one they're getting sniped down. Maybe if I had a Pringle can, I could do the elephants. I think
that would help. Yeah. More of a trumpety sound, right?
This is where we need Fitz, because he actually plays the trumpet.
That's true, he does.
He'd actually be happy with this as well, because, you know, he's a very enthusiast of the other kind, so anything to see the Delhi lose, he's good for. And it looks like the Delhi are going to lose. We even it up. 2-2 on the scoreboard. It looks like this one is definitely going the distance.
Yeah, it's hard to say even where that went wrong for VortiX. Maybe the plan was just a little bit too slow. You know, he went up to Castle Age, and kind of around the same time, he also added in that second TC, which, as you mentioned, you know, it's not as effective as the Chinese second TC, especially with that Song Dynasty. And he really just needed to play a bit more like aggressively, try to get control of the map in the mid game, and really like grab all those relics and sacred sites and snowball that into a victory. But PuppyPaw doing a really good job of locking down those sacred sites with the Barbican and the tower, and really like stalling VortiX as long as possible, and building up to that economic lead.
Yeah, it really came down to that early game, right? We highlighted already that the Delhi are all about being oppressive in the feudal age. And even when you think about the advantages VortiX had in this game, as it goes later, it doesn't help because the Chinese are so dominant in the late game, right? We already talked about Imperial. It's not feasible for the Delhi. If you try to rush Imperial, you clearly are drunk and thought you selected a different civ. Even if you talk about the wood lines, where VortiX had a lot of wood in reserve on the south side that wasn't being harassed, it was irrelevant because of the power of late game China. And I think that's maybe what just comes back to is VortiX needs to be playing more aggressive. This kind of feels a little bit unlike him, but I don't think it's to his discredit. I think it's to PuppyPaw's credit. He's phenomenal at these kind of potent timings right in the early game. He's very much a pressure oriented player, and I think that's exactly what we saw here.
Yeah, like he was very good at just applying pressure in just the right places. And applying pressure doesn't necessarily mean pushing your opponent's base. In this case, it just meant denying those sacred sites for as long as possible.